6:15 p.m. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The news edited by Catherine Pereira and read by Geethanjali Ramanayaka. The headlines. Discussions held between the teacher trade unions and the education minister is successful. All employees of the free trade zones under the BOI have been vaccinated. Chairman of the Parliamentary Women's Forum says that stern legal action should be taken against child abuse. Organic fertilizer production capacity of the Kerawalapitia Waste Management Park will be increased. Grace period to submit university admission applications. News from overseas, 110 dead after heavy rainfall in Maharashtra. Local news in detail. Minister Keheliya Rabukwala says that discussions held between trade unions and the minister regarding the salary anomalies of teachers is successful. The free education should not be obstructed for anyone. He also emphasized that the free education should be updated to suit the modern days. He made these remarks at a ceremony held at the Harispattuwa Divisional Secretariat. Parliamentarian and chairman of the Women's Parliamentarian Forum, State Minister Sudashini Fernandopulle says that stern legal action should be taken against child abuse, violation of child rights and child labour. She also said that punishments should be given to the offenders without considering their status. She made these remarks over a 16-year-old girl who was serving as a domestic helper at Badudin residence had succumbed to severe burn injuries while receiving treatment at the Colombo National Hospital after receiving treatment for 12 days. She also stated that rules and regulations should be prepared to prevent recurrence of such incidents. The Colombo Magistrates Court today granted permission to the Kiralapana police to detain MP Rishad Badudin's wife, who was arrested in connection with the death of an underage domestic aide at the parliamentarian's private residence. Accordingly, Shabdeen Aisha, 46, will be interrogated for 48 hours under detention orders. Sri Lanka Land Development Corporation has given a positive start to the government's policy decision on the use of organic fertilizer and has initiated a program to increase the amount of bio-organic compost produced at the Kerawalapitia Solid Waste Management Park from 15 metric tons per day to 50 metric tons per day, according to the Ministry of Urban Development and Housing. On the instructions of the Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa and under the supervision of State Minister Mohan Priyadarshana de Silva, the Land Development Corporation of Sri Lanka, manufacturers of the biodegradable organic fertilizer, which is produced from solid waste at the landfill of the Kerawalapitia Waste Management Park. The UGC chairman, Professor Sampath Amarasunga, said accepting applications for university admission of students who sat for the 2020 advanced level examination ended on the 18th of June. However, at the time, the University Grants Commission assured that students who could not submit their applications online due to the pandemic situation prevalent in the country will be given another opportunity. Accordingly, in keeping with its promise, the UGC has announced a grace period to send in university entrance applications from the 26th to the 30th of this month. After submitting their applications online, the students are further required to send in a signed copy of the entry form to the following email address introduced by the UGC. That is, apply2020@ugc.ac.lk. I'll repeat, apply2020@ugc.ac.lk. In addition, any changes that students wish to make to the order of the universities of courses they have chosen will be allowed from July 31st to August 14th. However, those who have already sent in their applications will not be able to make such changes, Professor Amaratunga noted. This news comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. 90 roads which were in dilapidated conditions for many years in the Daranyagala electoral division will be developed in parallel to the Gamasamaga Pilisandra program. Parliamentarian Rajika Wickramasinghe, who is the chairman of District Development Committee of Kagala, said that the construction work of several roads in the area have already commenced. The 9th series of the program, initiated by the President, was held at the Dikalla Kanda in the Kagala district. MP Rishad Paduddin, who was admitted to the Colombo National Hospital last week, has been taken back to the Criminal Investigations Department this evening. The parliamentarian, who is currently in custody over his alleged link with the perpetrators of the 2019 Easter Sunday terror attacks, was hospitalized on July 17th due to a sudden illness. Reportedly, the parliamentarian has asked the CID officers to transfer him to a paying ward at the Colombo National Hospital. However, his request was denied due to the ongoing investigations against him. His hospitalization came against the backdrop of reports on the death of an underage domestic aide at his private residence, which pointed to alleged abuse and sexual exploitation. That ends local news.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Veda Mahatmya.
All employees of the 14 free trade zones under the Sri Lanka Board of Investment have been vaccinated. At least one dose of the COVID eradication vaccines were given to 80% of employees who are employed in the apparel sector. The chairman of the BOI, Sanjay Mohotala, said that measures will be taken to provide vaccines to all other employees during the next 2 weeks. That was our main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Veda Mahatmya.
In Watchlight, the National Water Supply and Drainage Board says the water supply for several areas in Wattala will be interrupted for 24 hours from 10 a.m. on Monday. Thereby, part of Wattala Nigamba Road, part of Marbola area, Valikadamulla, all by roads up to Nayakakanda Junction on Handala Road, Alvis Town, Maradana Road, Puakwatta Road, Galahaduwa and part of Kerawalapitiya will be affected by the water cut. The water cut will be imposed due to the laying of water pipes across the Handala Bridge and connecting it to the main pipeline, the National Water Supply and Drainage Board stated further. That came to you in Watchlight. On to a bulletin of world news in the headlines. 110 dead after heavy rainfall in Maharashtra. Arrests at anti-lockdown protests in Australia. Surfside tower collapse. No sign of final victim as Miami search ends. World news in detail. At least 110 people have been killed in landslides and flooding triggered by heavy rains in the western Indian state of Maharashtra. The rains overwhelmed hundreds of villagers, sweeping away houses and leaving residents stranded. Rescue crews have been racing to evacuate survivors, but many people are feared missing. The Indian military has been helping with the efforts, which have been hampered by difficult conditions. The state has recorded its heaviest spell of July rain for decades. Many factors contribute to flooding, but experts say climate change caused by global warming makes extreme rainfall more likely. Demonstrations have taken place in Australian cities against tight restrictions imposed to tackle the rise in COVID cases. Thousands gathered in Sydney with smaller protests held in Melbourne and Brisbane. People chanted freedom as they marched through the centre of Sydney. Officers said they had made 57 arrests. Australian governments have reimposed lockdowns across the country amid a surge in new infections. The arrival of the highly contagious Delta variant has challenged the country's previous strategy of border closures, quarantine programs and snap lockdowns, which helped keep cases low. Firefighters say their search for bodies in the rubble of the collapsed Florida apartment block has finally ended, but one victim remains unaccounted for. At least 97 people were killed and when the 12-story Champlain Towers South fell in the early hours today. Battling tropical storms and the risk of unstable debris, rescuers worked through more than 13,000 tons of broken concrete. Back to the headlines of the world news. 110 dead after heavy rainfall in Maharashtra. Arrests at anti-lockdown protests in Australia. Surfside tower collapse. No sign of final victim as Miami search ends. That ends world news.
Development News is brought to you by Quality Matters Than Price. So as an engineer, I recommend Melva RB500. It's made with virgin billets using the latest technology. Melva RB500, number one in Sri Lanka. Truly Sri Lankan.
In development news, Hunna Deniya New Rathmale drinking water project at Mathura Kottegoda has commenced. 3.9 million rupees has been allocated for this purpose and 800 people will be benefited. It is expected to complete the project by the end of October. This project will be implemented by the Water Supply and Drainage Board under the Water for All project. That was development news.
Development News was brought to you by Quality Matters Than Price. So as an engineer, I recommend Melva RB500. It's made with virgin billets using the latest technology. Melva RB500, number one in Sri Lanka. Truly Sri Lankan.
In sports news, Sri Lanka's Anika Ghafoor finished second in her heat in the women's 100-meter butterfly event at the Tokyo 2020 Olympics today. Taking part in the heat that features the slower swimmers of the event, Ghafoor completed her heat in a time of 1 minute 5.33 seconds. Mariam Sheikh Ali Sadekanga of Azerbaijan won the heat with a time of 1 minute and 1.37 seconds, with Yushra Mardini of the refugee Olympic team finishing third with a time of 1 minute 6.78 seconds. All three were short of the time that would be necessary to qualify for the semi-final, with the swimmers in the top three heats swimming in under a minute. That was sports news.
Contributory deposit of 1,000 rupees from NSB when your child enters grade 1. Open a Hapan Children's Savings account for your kid today. Higher interest. Conditions apply. Business News. Sponsored by National Savings Bank. The safest place for your money.
In business news, 251 million rupees has been earned by telecasting foreign teledramas and films by media institutions in the country since February this year. The government has paid attention to increase present tax charges further for foreign teledramas and films. The objective is to safeguard the culture and teledrama art in the country. That was business news.
Business News. Sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money. Contributory deposit of 1,000 rupees from NSB when your child enters grade 1. Open a Hapan Children's Savings account for your kid today. Higher interest. Conditions apply.
Economic news. courtesy of... I bought my daughter a laptop for her work by managing my finances. Whatever the expenses may be, I can't afford to miss out on life's special moments like her birthday or our anniversary. So you need to invest to make your family's future flourish.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibilities. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act number 42 of 2011.
In economic news, the difference in the National Consumer Price Index for the month of June is 1.45. The reason for this has been caused by the increases in food and non-food items. The inflation in June has been declined when compared to the month of May. That came to you in economic news.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibility. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act number 42 of 2011.
Weather report was sponsored by
Dialogue, in partnership with the Ministry of Education, introduces Nanasa, a trilingual educational mobile app with video-based lessons for grade 1 to A-levels. Now your child can study with ease on your mobile with no subscription fee.
In the weather report, the Met Department says the southwest monsoon condition is active further over the country. Showers or thundershowers will occur at times in the western, Sabragamua, central and northwestern provinces and in the Galle and Mathura districts. Fairly heavy showers above 75 millimeters can be expected at some places in the western and Sabragamua provinces and in the Kandy, Nuwara, Galle and Mathura districts. Showers or thundershowers may occur at a few places in the Uva province and in the Ampara and Batticaloa districts in the evening or at night. And that was the weather report.
Weather report was sponsored by
Dialogue, in partnership with the Ministry of Education, introduces Nanasa, a trilingual educational mobile app with video-based lessons for grade 1 to A-levels. Now your child can study with ease on your mobile with no subscription fee.
To end this news broadcast, back to the headlines. The discussions held between the teachers' trade unions and the education minister is successful. All employees of the free trade zones under the BOI have been vaccinated. Chairman of the Parliamentary Women's Forum says that stern legal action should be taken against child abuse. Organic fertilizer production capacity of the Kerawalapitiya Waste Management Park will be increased. Grace period to submit university admission applications. News from overseas, 110 dead after heavy rainfall in Maharashtra.